Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I am Charlie McGrath, your host. Christina Consalo, the RadChick, is also a Wide Awake News host. She'll be starting her program 1 week from this Friday. If you don't listen to her now on her other networks that she is frequently on, please get in here and listen to her on her Friday programs. Is it twice a month? What are you doing? How?
I'm doing the fourth Friday, and then the months that we have 5, we're going to have a round table, which is going to be awesome. It's
going to be all girls, too. I'm just told I cannot show up to that, which is, whatever. That's fine. I mean, I've been left out before. I can handle it.
Who told you that?
Karen told me I'm not allowed. It's girls only.
Oh, well, Karen said.
Karen said, I'm just doing it. I learned a long time ago, I'm just not going to argue. I'm just going to do what she says, and then life will be a lot easier for me. Right now, I know she's typing a Skype message to me because she just heard that, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for that. So, and now let's move on with this, because during the break, or before the break, I said to you, explain to me how, flying through radiation, constant radiation, or elevated levels of it, can cause you to pass out while you're flying, a 777. And go ahead and break that down real quick, because it's pretty interesting.
Sure, and I would like to really try to promote extraordinary interview that was done by Jeff Rense with Bill Deagle on Monday, talking about the brain effects from radiation, and Dr. Deagle laid this out. I mean, it was pretty. It was probably the best interview I've ever heard about health effects from that perspective, and I listened to it 3 times and took notes. And it's a very difficult thing to explain, but the ionizing radiation that you're exposed to from that's not, naturally occurring or man-made in the environment, it strips electrons out of the cells in your body, which is what leads to illness and weakness and things malfunctioning. And in your brain, you have these ion channels, and if the radiation affects the electrons in those channels, it overloads the circuit. So it's kind of like, he described it like a flash camera going off, or a black and white photo that keeps getting put up, and eventually, like, your brain can't handle that much input, and so it shuts down those channels. And that's what can cause seizures or seizure-like activity or other things like passing out. And he had also indicated and broke down, pretty much by isotope, what he thinks is going to be occurring over, the next few months and years, and what people need to look for. And something that he talked about extensively was a significant increase in any kind of mental illness that you can think of because of this happening. And he also had said, spontaneous miscarriages and cardiac arrhythmias, zombie-like behaviors, which is part of the neurological thing again. It affects your glands, your bones, your muscles, your organs, your brain, your vascular system, your cardiovascular system. And, even if it's very subtle, there are things that you can tell maybe just in a change in behavior and in people too, because that might be where it's first noticeable to other people. Like, someone in your family might not tell you that they're not feeling well, but you may notice that they're much more agitated than they usually are, or they are actually aggressive when that's something that's not a usual trait for them to have. And some of those things were actually documented in animals around Chernobyl, and there were reports of, like, wild boars that would attack cars, like run right into the side of cars while they were driving down the road, which, a wild boar is, I guess, not something they would usually do. And other animals that acted very aggressive, and that's because their brain function is being affected, and switches that would usually keep you from acting out really crazy don't function properly because of this ion stripping that's going on, or electron stripping.
That is extremely interesting. And you said that that interview was Monday. I'll try to find that. I'm sure you can find it at Rense.com. I know you can find it, his archives there at Rense.com, and check it out. I'll try to find that interview and attach it to this interview, which will be up on YouTube later on. But tell me what's going on now with Fukushima. I mean, what's the latest? I mean, is there any progress whatsoever, or is it escalating in its lethality? What's going on?
There really isn't any progress. In fact, and I was reminiscing the other day about the first time I came on your show,
Mm-hmm.
Like boyfriends and girlfriends always do.
That's right. We reminisce and look back at the good old days.
And I remember, I was so happy that someone would actually listen to me and that I wouldn't even let you talk. Like, pretty much the whole thing, I just talked through the whole interview. Yeah. And one of the things that I was, really adamant about was that this water that they're pouring is going into the Pacific.
Right.
And finally, TEPCO just admitted this, 3 months ago, that everything that they've been pouring that they haven't been able to collect in some of these big tanks is just going right into the Pacific. And we have all these reports now of, the sea life is acting weird, and there's whales that are, rubbing up against boats and surrounding boats and coming up to people almost like they're asking for help is how I picture it. And over the summer, there were sea lions that were jumping in people's cars to get away from the beach. I mean, you can look on YouTube for these videos. It's really extraordinary animal behavior that's been happening. And then, of course, the melting starfish and bleeding herring and on and on and on. I mean, I can't even tell you how many species at this point have had biological effects that have been reported that could be related to radiation exposure. The only thing that has changed since all of these reports started coming out is that accident. And there's still nothing that's being contained. In fact, all of this highly radioactive water that's being stored in giant tanks, those tanks are now leaking. And, it's at some point they're going to probably dump all that in the ocean too. And they have to, because when it leaks, then the workers can't go over there because, the radiation is too high, it's too dangerous. And, there's spots all over that facility that are so high that if you walked into them, you would drop dead instantly. And so these guys have to walk around with these Geiger counters on poles to put them out ahead of them to make sure they don't walk into one of these hot spots. And there's new ones popping up all the time. So, I mean, this management, it's all really cosmetic and political that they're over there, talking about how great things are going at the plant and how they're getting things under control. It's all BS. There is nothing under control at that site. They're just fixing things as they pop up. The circuits break and pipes leak and things have to be taken care of, and they're trying to remove fuel from the pools, which is going to be an endless and pointless activity because they're never going to be able to do it without something going wrong with the state that those pools are in. So, it's always kind of in the back of my mind, and I hope that it never happens. I'm surprised that it hasn't already, but it probably will, that we're going to have another significant radiological release from that facility when something gets out of hand that they can't mitigate for.
Well, yeah, or even just another, massive earthquake or tsunami. I mean, that's a very, very high likelihood that some environmental, even a bad monsoon over there would be catastrophic.
Yeah, they had problems after the typhoons. They had a landslide at one of their other reactors down the coast, and they couldn't even get to the facility at Manju because of this landslide that happened from the last typhoon that went through. And, every time that a storm goes through there, it's kicking that stuff up all over the place. Right. And it's not disappearing. It's just working its way through the environment in different ways. Even on days when it's warm, the heat in the ground will help revolatilize cesium that's in the soil that could have landed there 1 or 2 or 3 years ago. Stuff is just constantly re-released, and then, there's uptake in the animals and plants, and then, people eat that, and then, gradually, it works its way into us, and it's probably doing so already.
Yeah, and you know what? Every time, I love fish. I mean, I love it. And I'm just gut shot because everything, I won't touch anything that if it came out of the Pacific Ocean, I'm terrified of it.
Yeah, I used to love it too, and I'd eat sushi a couple times a week because I had a great sushi place by my work. And I've had sushi 3 times since the accident. Yeah. And the last time that I had it, I really got sick. Both of us got sick from it, and so I won't eat it again. And there was even a chef of a very popular restaurant in California who went public, and the news covered this story too, and he said he won't serve Pacific fish anymore for his patrons, and that he was going to be sourcing all his fish from southern Arctic glacial seas and so forth,
right,
that are less contaminated. And the news labeled him as an extremist for that. And I mean, that's just not true. That's very smart what he's doing.
Yeah, no kidding. So is anything? I mean, we all read the story. You mentioned the starfish, the massive amount of radiation that's being found in tuna off the West Coast. I mean, is there anything that you would dare try to ingest that comes out of that region? I mean, or is there anything I could do? I mean, can I take Alaskan halibut or cod or something and do something to it to make it safe for me to eat, or is it just if I want to stay safe, keep away from it?
Yeah, if you want to stay safe, keep away from it. There's nothing that you can do to get it out of the fish or anything like that.
Well, I knew the answer to that before I was asking. But I was hoping you have some kind of miracle cure, like soak it in some kind of silver solution, and it'll suck the radiation out of it, and I can enjoy my Alaskan halibut again. But yeah, it's certainly and I'll talk to Jeff or correspond with Jeff once in a while on the topic, and he always brings reality right to my face on it, and it's just, I mean, it's one more thing. I'm glad you focus on that, and as we've teased each other since we've been dating all these years about you. I'm a crash. What am I called? What am I? A crash tard or something like that, or collapse tard? Crash tard. And what are you? You're a fucktard?
Fucktard.
Yeah, because oh man, are you kidding me? That's it. Christina Consalo, also known as RadChick. Her program will be the fourth Friday of every month, starting 1 week from this Friday coming up. Please tune in, support her, get in there, listen to her. Always.